What if the fog rolling into your neighborhood wasn't just water vapor, but something far more sinister? In late 2024, reports began pouring in, and a dense, chemical-smelling fog blanketed neighborhoods in the US, the UK, and Canada. People got sick, with flu-like symptoms, nausea, and even stomach cramps. Was this nature or something else entirely? Residents across the United States, Canada, and even parts of the United Kingdom began reporting something strange, thick, lingering fogs that didn't behave like typical weather. Unlike the usual morning mist, this fog carried a sharp, unnatural scent, described by some as chemical, by others as the acrid smell of burning fireworks, plastic, or even sulfur. The reports came in waves. From Texas to Florida, from Wisconsin to Virginia, people stepped outside only to be hit with an invisible wall of fog that felt almost engineered. What followed was even more alarming. People across these regions began reporting physical symptoms. They weren't dramatic or immediately debilitating, but consistent and oddly timed: sneezing fits, burning eyes, scratchy throats, stomach cramps, and even mild fevers. In some towns, pets reacted too. Dogs sniffed wildly at the air, whined, or acted disoriented. The odd timing of the fog's appearance and its geographic spread led many to wonder if they were all experiencing the same thing or if they were caught in a feedback loop of viral fear. Much of the panic was fueled by social media, especially TikTok and X. Starting around December 29, dozens of users began posting videos of the fog creeping through their neighborhoods, adding commentary like, "This doesn't smell right," or "Why does the air taste like poison?" Some even compared the event to historic chemical weapons tests or speculated that the fog was being seeded by drones. One viral post featured a user in Florida claiming they couldn't stop sneezing after being outside for 10 minutes. Another claimed the fog tasted metallic and left a burning sensation in their chest. The eerie synchronicity between fog sightings and illness reports quickly spiraled into a nationwide phenomenon. Reports weren't limited to one or two regions. Canada and parts of the UK saw similar conditions, with residents echoing the same symptoms and sharing videos that closely matched those from the United States. While fog isn't unusual during winter months, this fog had an edge. It wasn't just the thickness or the temperature that unsettled people, it was the intensity of the odor, the feeling that something was off. In major media coverage, the fog was initially treated as a curiosity, but as more and more people reported getting sick, the tone shifted. News outlets began covering the fog with increasing urgency, and headlines hinted at larger, more unsettling possibilities. Some referenced historic events like the Donora smog of 1948 or the infamous London fog of 1952, both of which had deadly consequences due to industrial pollution. The implication was subtle but chilling. What if history were repeating itself, only with new tools? Authorities issued fog advisories in several states, but stopped short of calling it hazardous. Meteorologists pointed to a phenomenon known as advection fog, where moist air moves over cooler land, creating a dense fog layer. In industrial areas, this kind of fog can trap pollutants close to the ground, intensifying any odors. But even those explanations failed to fully satisfy the public. The sheer volume of consistent anecdotal evidence, paired with the absence of any clear governmental reassurance, left people anxious. By early January, the strange fog had sparked two opposing camps, those trusting science and those fearing something more sinister. As eerie clouds returned, so did symptoms: sneezing, coughing, burning throats, itchy eyes, nausea, and even pets acting strangely. Social media lit up with drone theories and chemical fears. While meteorologists cited advection fog and pollution traps, the public wasn't convinced. The fog, they argued, felt different, like a warning in the air. Scientists explained it as natural moisture hitting the dew point, forming fog that traps pollutants. But without clear lab results, fear outpaced facts, and the mystery only deepened. Meteorologists explained the 2024 fog as advection fog, trapping urban pollutants common in winter. But locals weren't convinced. Many described the fog as grainy, metallic, even sticky, unlike typical smog. Some clean areas reported worse symptoms than industrial zones, and drone sightings fueled further suspicion. Without toxicology reports or official testing, explanations felt incomplete. Scientists pointed to historical smog events like London's 1952 disaster, but the viral spread of fog-related content made this different. Online, the mystery exploded into theories, memes, and panic. In the absence of clear data, both fear and fog thickened, leaving science and speculation battling in the same airspace. What started as a few strange TikTok posts quickly snowballed into a viral phenomenon. Users across the US, Canada, and the UK began uploading videos of their neighborhoods shrouded in the eerie mist, narrating their symptoms, sniffing the air, and warning others to stay inside. Someone dubbed it FogVid24, and the name stuck. The hashtag exploded. Millions of views later, it wasn't just content, it was a movement. People were filming fog with thermal cameras, comparing air filters before and after, and even posting theories about shadowy aircraft spreading chemicals. Was this the new normal? That was the unsettling question lurking beneath the viral content. On X, the conversation was louder and darker. Threads emerged claiming the fog was part of a large-scale geoengineering experiment gone wrong. Others insisted it was a trial run for future chemical warfare. Drones became a major talking point. Dozens of users claimed they had seen small, unmarked flying objects hovering above the fog, blinking with red lights. Though none of the videos offered definitive proof, the narrative had already taken hold. Soon, traditional media jumped on the wave. Headlines in major outlets like the Daily Mail, the Economic Times, and Forbes played up the drama. Articles asked provocative questions like, "Is this fog a weapon? And are we breathing in government secrets?" While many included quotes from meteorologists or health experts offering natural explanations, the headlines told a different story. Public trust, already on shaky ground in a post-pandemic world, was easy to shake further. The public reaction was intense. Schools in several counties reportedly closed for air quality reasons, and some businesses asked employees to work from home. People began wearing masks again, not for viruses, but for fog. Hardware stores in fog-affected areas reported a spike in sales of air purifiers, carbon filters, and goggles. Some online communities even circulated DIY fog kits, complete with hazmat suits and portable sensors. Incredibly, even satire fueled fear. A fake article about the fog being a failed alien cloaking experiment got picked up by real accounts, triggering yet another wave of concern. In the age of viral content, parody and panic often walk hand in hand. But the core of the hysteria wasn't just about fog, it was about something deeper: how fast fear travels, how easy it is to question reality when the sky looks unfamiliar, and how difficult it is to feel safe when no one in charge seems fully in control. The fog became a canvas for every fear people already had: government secrets, environmental collapse, and the lingering trauma of a world still recovering from recent global crises. And through it all, the fog just kept rolling in. If the online frenzy made the 2024 haze feel unprecedented, history tells a different story. Earth's atmosphere has shocked humanity before, sometimes with lethal consequences. Looking back helps separate genuine danger from viral dread. The most famous parallel is the Great London Smog of 1952. Over 5 frigid December days, stagnant air trapped coal soot and sulfur dioxide above the city. Visibility fell to a few feet, buses crept behind policemen holding lanterns, hospitals overflowed, and modern estimates linked the event to 12,000 excess deaths in the weeks that followed. It wasn't a mystery, but raw industrial pollution, visible in every blackened lung. 4 years earlier and thousands of miles away, the Donora smog struck a steel mill town in Pennsylvania. A temperature inversion pinned factory emissions in the Monongahela River Valley. 20 people died, half the town fell ill, and headlines demanded new, clean air laws. Doctors reported chest pains, raw throats, and a metallic taste, symptoms eerily echoed in today's fog diaries. Go back even further to 1930, the Meuse Valley disaster in Belgium. For 3 cold December days, sulfurous fumes from zinc and steel works lodged in a narrow gorge. By the time winds returned, 60 people had died, and thousands were gasping for breath. It became the first modern proof that air itself could be a mass killer. So what sets these tragedies apart from 2024's toxic fog? For one, the classic smogs smelled unmistakably of coal or metalworks, a grim but familiar stench of progress. Residents saw soot on windowsills and smokestacks belching above. In contrast, the recent haze carried a stranger signature. Some called it a plastic tang, others a chemical bite they couldn't place. No single factory skyline linked the dots. Health outcomes diverged too. Historical victims suffered bronchitis, heart failure, and in London's case, immediate fatalities. By comparison, 2024's complaints, sneezing, headaches, gut cramps, were sharp yet generally non-fatal. Was this proof that the new fog was less toxic, or did its true danger simply hide behind milder symptoms? And if it was only trapping modern pollutants, why did rural hamlets, far from factories, report the same chemical tang? Then there is scale. The London and Donora smogs were local disasters. The 2024 haze hopscotched a continent in hours, abetted by jet streams and Wi-Fi. Information moved faster than wind, binding scattered episodes into one perceived phenomenon. Historical smog spurred landmark air quality laws. Today, the call is not just for cleaner fuel, but clearer answers and perhaps real-time transparency when the sky behaves strangely. History doesn't repeat itself in perfect circles, but patterns echo. When fog turns foul, people grow anxious, governments stall, science searches for data. The past reminds us that atmospheric mysteries can be deadly or simply misunderstood. Which verdict will 2024 earn? The jury, like the haze, is still hanging in the air. Despite rising fear and non-stop speculation, one unsettling thing remained consistent: the silence from those in charge. As residents choked on fog and timelines flooded with grainy videos and anxious posts, government agencies offered little more than weather updates and vague reassurances. For many, that silence spoke louder than any press conference ever could. Coming off the heels of historic events like the London smog or the Donora disaster, people expected some sort of decisive statement. Something from the EPA, the CDC, even local public health offices. But what they got instead were standard fog advisories, the same ones issued during chilly mornings in any typical winter. No warnings about chemical exposure, no calls to remain indoors, no alerts for explaining the spike in symptoms people were documenting across social platforms. The official word was, fog happens. Nothing to see here. But was there really nothing? To calm the frenzy, some fact-checking outlets began sifting through the claims. One well-known source examined footage, satellite data, air quality indexes, and scientific input. Their conclusion? No trace of deliberate chemical dispersal. No drone flights linked to toxic emissions. No credible evidence of biowarfare or mass pollution events. The fog, they said, was explainable through natural phenomena like advection fog and industrial particulates getting trapped in weather inversions. Still, the fact check wasn't enough for many. Why didn't the government conduct more public environmental tests in the most affected areas? If it was just pollution, why didn't it smell like regular pollution? And then came the optics issue. While official channels remained largely quiet, citizens were documenting everything, from their air purifiers filling with residue, to pets behaving strangely, to skin rashes after walking outside. When institutions fail to acknowledge shared public experience, people start filling in the blanks themselves. That's when suspicion turns into belief, and belief turns into panic. Even local authorities, though likely overwhelmed or underinformed, offered little clarity. Emergency management offices in fog-affected areas repeated basic meteorological explanations and told people to monitor visibility while driving. There was no mention of health advisories, chemical testing, or the symptoms spreading across multiple regions. To many, it felt like the early days of past crises, when governments downplayed risk to maintain calm, only to later issue retractions once damage was done. Was this one of those moments? Or was it truly a case of foggy coincidence, spiraling out of control thanks to social media? Ultimately, the lack of coordinated, transparent communication only deepened public mistrust. Had agencies stepped up with swift investigations and clear language, they might have diffused the tension. Instead, the haze wasn't just in the air, it settled in the public's mind. And until someone could clear it up for real, the mystery kept growing, thicker than ever. If silence was unsettling, the ongoing nature of the phenomenon made it even more disturbing. While many had hoped the fog would be a one-time winter oddity, it didn't vanish with the change of season. Instead, It returned, again and again, drifting over neighborhoods across different states, sometimes in the early hours of dawn, other times clinging to the ground late into the afternoon. And each time it reappeared, the same flood of questions followed. Was this still just a weather anomaly, or was something larger unfolding in plain sight? By mid-2025, sightings of the chemical-scented fog had been logged in at least 5 separate waves, reported from Texas, Wisconsin, parts of the UK, and even small towns in Ontario. In some areas, the fog rolled in for only a few hours. In others, it lingered for days, and just like before, people reported nausea, sneezing, irritated eyes, strange headaches, and pets acting nervous or lethargic. What made the situation more frustrating was the total absence of hard data to explain what exactly was being inhaled. Despite repeated online calls for testing, no major lab results were made public. No air samples, no pollutant breakdowns, no toxicology updates from health departments. Even local universities and independent labs that showed interest early on soon went quiet, or at least stopped publishing updates. For many, that silence felt deliberate. Forbes and other outlets continued to track the story, often looping back to the drone theories that refused to die. Some suggested that the fog events overlapped with known drone test zones. Others pointed out patterns of military exercises in fog-prone areas. Were these just coincidences or signs of experimental dispersals the public wasn't meant to notice? And yet, none of it was conclusive. The fog remained, quite literally, a grey area, neither officially acknowledged as dangerous nor officially declared safe. Without lab-verified results or an investigation with teeth, it became impossible to distinguish fact from fear. Why is it so hard to get answers in the age of hyper-information? Perhaps it's because the tools for speculation have outpaced the tools for accountability. Or maybe, as some believe, the lack of clarity is the point. The less we know, the less we demand. One thing's certain, the fog's mystery hasn't lifted. If anything, the longer it persists without answers, the more it begins to feel like a warning, not just about the air, but about what happens when public trust dissolves faster than the mist hanging over our cities. The longer the fog lingered without explanation, the more it became a study in mass psychology as much as meteorology. After months of uncertainty and rumors, experts in behavioral science stepped forward to frame the event through a different lens. Social amplification, the way a real but ambiguous threat can balloon once thousands of minds start filling in the blanks. Psychologists pointed to a phenomenon called collective focusing. When an unusual stimulus, say a chemical-smelling haze, grabs attention in one community, social media amplifies every detail until distant groups begin watching for the same cue. The moment they notice even a hint of fog, they interpret it through the narrative already circulating online. One worried tweet becomes hundreds, hundreds become a national trend. In effect, the story writes itself faster than any single authority can correct it. A classic parallel is the windshield pitting scare of the 1950s. Drivers in Seattle suddenly noticed tiny pits in their car windshields and, convinced something sinister was eating the glass, flooded police stations with reports. Within days, the panic jumped to nearby towns, even though the pits had been there all along. Once people started searching for evidence, they found it everywhere. Eventually, scientists concluded the pitting was normal wear previously ignored, but the social contagion had already done its work. Something similar may be playing out with the 2024 fog. Every wisp of moisture, every odd smell, every winter cough is plugged into a larger, ominous pattern. Is the fog truly getting worse, or are we simply noticing it more? The question itself fuels further vigilance, which in turn leads to more reports. Psychologists stress that this doesn't mean the symptoms are imagined. Stress can amplify real physical reactions, and pollutants do irritate lungs and eyes. But the collective spotlight can transform scattered irritations into a perceived national crisis. Without transparent testing or authoritative communication, people fill the vacuum with rumination and fear. In that sense, the mysterious fog is both meteorological and mental, a mirror showing how quickly modern societies can spiral from curiosity to collective alarm when the air itself feels unreliable. From a psychological standpoint, collective focus turned an eerie weather event into a continent-wide mystery. but the fog itself remains stubbornly physical. We're left with a puzzle that refuses to settle into a single, satisfying explanation. Since late 2024, thick, chemical-scented fogs have drifted across the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom. People reported sneezing fits, eye irritation, headaches, stomach cramps, and a metallic taste on the tongue. Videos and hashtags, especially the viral label FogVid24, rocketed the story into millions of feeds, amplifying both genuine concern and wild speculation. Meteorologists pointed to advection fog trapping everyday pollutants, while online sleuths mapped drone sightings and whispered about covert tests. Historians reminded us that deadly smogs have haunted cities before. Psychologists showed how fear multiplies when official answers lag behind public questions. Yet concrete facts are scarce. No authoritative laboratory breakdown of airborne contaminants has been released. No agency has demonstrated with data that the haze contains only familiar pollutants or that it hides something more exotic. Without those numbers, two narratives continue to coexist. One frames the fog as a natural blend of moisture and modern industry, uncomfortable but not extraordinary. The other treats it as evidence of an undisclosed experiment, a leak, or an emerging environmental threat. So we finish where we began, looking into a haze that blurs certainty. Was this simply winter weather meeting industrial exhaust, or a sign of something stranger slipping into our atmosphere? Until transparent, peer-reviewed analyses appear, that question remains open. Which brings us to you. If you lived through the December 2024 fog or any of its later reappearances, your first-hand account matters. Did you smell burning plastic? Experience sudden nausea? Share what you saw, smelled, and felt, because the story of the mysterious fog isn't finished. It's waiting to be clarified by data, investigation, and the collective record of ordinary people breathing the same uncertain air. What did you experience during December 2024's strange fog? And what, in your view, did the air truly hold? And that's all about it. If you like this video, please give a thumbs up. And if you like more updates, subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell icon so you don't miss any videos and get notifications on time. Don't hesitate to give suggestions for our videos. See you in the next one.